You know, it's so important, the culture, and that's what you hear so much when you get back down to engagement. I mean, the recent Gallup, you've seen, we've got 33% that are engaged, we've got 51% that are not engaged, and then you got the rest that are totally not engaged.
Yeah.
So if we've got all these walking dead zombies out there, how do you get an engaged culture? Do you suggest that hiring from the right people to begin with, but what if we've already got this culture and we've got all these people, we're not hiring new people? How do you change that? I mean, is there a solution?
Some ways it starts at the top. I think everybody would say, well, it's got to start with the CEO on down, and it truly does.
Right.
People will do what the boss checks. I mean, that's an old military axiom. So
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's the same in corporate America. So it truly has to begin with senior leadership.
Okay.
Recognizing and understand the value of culture, and indeed later today, that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about, is creating that culture of leadership as a process within the organization to help promote innovation and through engagement ultimately. And you'll see in my talk where I spent a lot of time talking about the importance of engaging others. There's an old expression that we sometimes hear in leadership, it's lonely at the top. I used to tell my commanders that if leadership by definition is a group activity, if you're lonely, you're doing something wrong. So go out and deal with others.
Yeah, I like that.
That sets a tone of engagement. It has to begin at the top. That starts cascading down. The boss needs to set expectations and clarity of those expectations, that engagement. And it can't be just something check the box and we accomplish that and let's move on to the next thing. It has to grow. This is also something that has to be done over the long term. It's not something you're going to go flip a dime on and say 6 months later we're done. Let's move on to the next big thing. It needs to be constant. One thing I did, for example, when I was the Army commander, every month I had my staff calls where all my commanders briefed me on what their operations were going on, and all the support staff. We all do this in every organization. One change I made to that was, before you get into the details, brigade commander, what's going on this week, tell me a story. Tell me a story of where you saw values in action. And we took our 7 Army values and we spread these out once a month. And I began every meeting with each of my commanders told me a story, not just a theoretical discussion of what integrity means or respect means. What I want is a date-time group specific where you saw integrity in action within your units. So by requiring that, it wasn't just them. They had to go to their subordinates and their teams, and they said, hey, the boss wants these stories. You've got to feed me this stuff. So they started doing the same thing in their units. And pretty soon over time, the ideas of respect, integrity, and honesty, and selfless service, they weren't faceless concepts. Now we put people with them, and we put in a specific activity with them, an event with them. Yeah, last Tuesday on the 14th of June, I saw Sergeant Smith demonstrate respect when he did blank. Fill in the blank. And then we started developing posters around this, and we started using this, and we actually transformed our whole Army, awards and recognition system, not just the Employee of the Month anymore. It was really about recognizing the Employee of the Month's contributions as they relate to values. But these ideas help feed culture, and that's really what we're after, is that culture of innovation, a value-centric culture that will lead and transform organizations.